morning, dear students. This is Sudha ma'am. Welcome to the fourth part of lesson 2, that is respiration, the energy releasing system. To begin with, a quick review of previous session. In our previous session, we have studied the structure and location of lungs, mechanism of respiration, in which it includes the changes that takes place in the lungs during inhalation and exhalation, gaseous exchange between alveoli to capillaries, composition of inhaled and exhaled air, and finally transportation and exchange of gases between cells and capillaries. Let's start today's session with the topic cellular respiration, which is the final event in the process of respiration. The term cellular respiration refers to the pathway by which cells release energy from the chemical bonds of food molecules that enter them. This provides energy for all essential processes of life. So, living cells must carry out cellular respiration. In prokaryotic cells, cellular respiration takes place in cytoplasm. What do you mean by prokaryotic cell? Prokaryotic cells are very primitive and not well developed. No membrane bound cell organelles, no nuclear membrane. DNA is present in the central area of the cell called nucleoid. 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 Example, bacteria and blue-green algae, that is cyanobacteria. So, in prokaryotic cells, cellular respiration takes place in cytoplasm. In eukaryotic cells, that means the cells possess a clearly defined nucleus and it is surrounded by nuclear membrane and it contains well-defined chromosomes. Example, right from amoeba to human beings. In eukaryotic cells, the cellular respiration takes place in cytoplasm and mitochondria as well. The produced energy is stored in the mitochondria in the form of ATP. Hence, mitochondria are known as powerhouse of the cell. The breakdown of sugar in a living cell does not take place in a single reaction, but occurs in a series of different chemical reactions. From the breakdown of glucose, the energy is released and stored up in a special compound known as ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate. Whenever cells need energy, ATP is capable of supplying energy. Hence, ATP are known as energy currencies of the cell. One ATP molecule provides 7,200 calories of energy. This energy is stored in the form of phosphate bonds. If the phosphate bond is broken, the stored energy is released. Now coming to its types. Cellular respiration is of two types, one aerobic and second one anaerobic. Coming to aerobic respiration, when cells or organisms carry out oxidation of food materials by utilizing molecular oxygen is called aerobic respiration. Simply we can say by using oxygen. Anaerobic respiration, when cells or organisms carry out oxidation of nutrients without utilizing molecular oxygen is called anaerobic respiration. In simpler terms, when oxygen is not involved. Glucose is the most commonly used sugar for deriving energy in plants, animals, and microorganisms. In all these, the glucose is oxidized in two stages. In the first stage, the glucose is converted into two molecules of pyruvic acid. Glucose is a 6 carbon compound. It is divided into two 3 carbon compounds called pyruvic acid or pyruvate. This process is called glycolysis. Glyco means glucose. Lysis means breakdown. Hence, this process is called glycolysis. This takes place in cytoplasm of the cell. For this, oxygen is not required, and this process is common for both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. In the second stage, if oxygen is available, pyruvic acid or pyruvate is oxidized to carbon dioxide and water, and large amount of energy is released in this process, and this is called Krebs cycle, and this takes place in the mitochondria of the cells, example plant cells, animal cells, including human cells. As O2 is present, this is called aerobic respiration. In another process where oxygen is absent or inadequate, the pyruvic acid is converted into ethanol or ethyl alcohol, example yeast. Sometimes the pyruvic acid is converted into lactic acid, example human muscle cells and bacteria. In both these cases, very little amount of energy is released. So, during this process, a 6 carbon compound glucose is divided into two 3 carbon compounds called pyruvate, and some energy, that is 2 ATP, is released. This pyruvate, in the absence or low amount of oxygen, converted into lactic acid, and little amount of energy is released, example human muscle cells and bacteria. Lactic acid is a 3 carbon compound, so here carbon dioxide is not released, whereas in yeast the pyruvate is converted into ethanol, which is a 2 carbon compound. So, carbon dioxide and little energy are also released. These are the two examples of anaerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, that is, in the presence of oxygen, the pyruvate is oxidized to carbon dioxide and water, and huge amount of energy, that is 36 ATP, is released. Example, plant and animal cells. This is about cellular respiration. Now, moving to the next topic. Can energy be released without oxygen? Yes, a very little energy is produced in the muscles of humans. After a vigorous exercise like running, brisk walk, jogging, etc., we feel pain in our muscles. During strenuous exercise, the active muscles required more energy, but the energy stored in ATP lasts for a little time. So, to get the extra energy, glucose is partially oxidized in a fast manner through anaerobic respiration into lactic acid and energy. The accumulation of lactic acid results pain in leg muscles. When we take enough rest after the exercise, then oxygen is properly available to remove lactic acid from the blood, and fatigue will be removed and muscles will be relaxed. If you observe carefully during 100 meters race, the fastest sprinters do not breathe at all. They hold their breath till they reach the destination. In this process, the muscles use the energy released by anaerobic breakdown of glucose. Once after reaching destination, they pant, meaning breathe rapidly for oxygen, which removes the lactic acid formed in their muscles. In the distant races, the athletes breathe all the times, so some lactic acid is removed while they are running, so they can go on for longer before becoming exhausted. The presence of lactic acid in the blood is the main cause of muscle cramps. If they take sufficient rest, the muscles will be normal. So, today we studied about cellular respiration and its types, that is aerobic and anaerobic, and about the requirement of oxygen for the release of energy. That's all for today. Meet you in the next session. Thank you.